If you're not spending 80% of your budget within a funnel, you're doing it all wrong.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Coach U Show, where we interview successful entrepreneurs on how they're doing what they do so everyone else can learn. Today, we have Caleb Kingston. Caleb, I've known you for 6-7 years now. We've hung out in so many different places. He runs Brainspin. He's got an agency and he runs successful businesses, so he understands both sides. He's one of the smartest people. He makes my brain spin. Videos together. And I wanted to go more into detail in Caleb's story and what he does. And especially if you're an agency owner or you don't understand what goes on in the world of SEO, you're going to find this valuable. So tune in today. Caleb, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you were saying earlier a backstory that I didn't know about how we met. I would love to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go just a little bit before that and how we actually got into digital marketing. So Brainspin started as a software development company. We did design and development for a lot of medical applications and websites. And as we started developing, we found that there was a need for the websites and marketing. So after you're done building a website, how do we bring that to market? Those were services that we didn't provide. We had clients ask us about those, and we always had to refer them to other people. And so it seemed like a logical step to take that same client and kind of help them reach the end goal of success, not just hand off a website and say, take it from here. So that was something, to get into that, we actually hired an SEO company ourselves, and we paid them for a year to understand what their methodologies were and what the results were, to see what's the benchmark of what we should be doing. And so that was a great lesson for me to understand what they did for us, how to market that. And in turn, we took some of those things and we applied that to some other clients and just really got down and tried to understand what that was. And I think we did really great for SEO. We started getting into the paid ads. We had some of our clients asking us about paid advertising and how that works. And that was easy enough to start a Google Ads account, find some keywords and start paying for them, right? But as far as tracking the goals and the metrics and understanding Facebook and YouTube and Google and those different platforms and how you can track throughout there, those were things that were all new to us. So we had a client ask us about remarketing. And we said, well, we can pay for some Google ads. We can get some traffic to your site. We can boost sales. And he said, well, what do you do for remarketing? And that was like the first time I heard that term, remarketing. And so I just told him, I don't understand that, but we will. And I'll have an answer for you within a couple of days as we dive into that. We already developed enough trust with him and some of the other things that we were doing with SEO and things like that, that he had the patience to work with us. But that was when I started to find, like, who knows about remarketing and how can we best learn? And I found out that you were actually presenting at Adobe in Lehigh. You were presenting at a marketing conference. And there were about 5 presenters there, but I sat at a table with about 5 other companies. And I remember when you were talking, they were like, this is wild. This is some awesome stuff. And one of the things that you said at that conference that still sticks with me, and you were talking about the $1 a day strategy and how, if you take that dollar on Facebook and you spend that and you try to get an ROI of 2 or 3 or whatever, and you're not leveraging that same target and that customer in YouTube or Google or other ways to remarket, you're wasting all that money. I remember hearing that and thinking, I've got to learn more about this, because technically I didn't understand everything on how to create custom audiences and how to track them through different, and how to become platform agnostic, I guess. And so I found out Dennis was teaching like a 3-day course in Phoenix. And I wish you'd do more of those, because I have other employees that we need to educate as well. I mean, that was awesome. I had me and a colleague of mine, we flew out to Arizona. We learned, it was a fire hose of information, and it was stuff that we took back and applied with our own agency. We applied it with our clients. These are things that we had 8 times ROI, where in our wildest dreams before that, we couldn't even possibly achieve something like that. So it was a huge game changer for our agency.
That was at Infusionsoft or GoDaddy's headquarters?
I believe it was Infusionsoft. There were some GoDaddy partners that were there presenting as well.
We like to go back and forth between both places.
Yeah, it
It's
was
always
great.
nice being at their buildings. And
Mhm.
then it's always great to learn from the people who are doing it at the world-class level.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was very enlightening for us, especially being as small as we were and trying to grow.
Very cool. So what did you learn about SEO that was a surprise, or remarketing that was a surprise to you before?
The biggest thing about paid advertising and remarketing is how easy it is to create those custom audiences and how easy it is to say, like, if they watch 80% of this video, then remarket this campaign to them here. And like you can send them Facebook ads depending on what they watch on YouTube, and you can send them YouTube ads depending on what markets there are in Facebook or your website.
Yeah.
You know, if they visited within 30 days, like that's some of the easiest ones is like if they abandon in your shopping cart, like the ones that almost purchased from you, that's the best ROI. And I didn't know technically there was the ability to do things like that before we got this information. And technically how to do that, it seems very challenging, but these were things that you and your staff while we were there, like helped us set up within 20 minutes. Like, oh, let's jump in here and let's do that. Yeah, super helpful.
And it seems like magic. You think like, how are these ads following me around? Now I'm on YouTube, now I'm on CNN, now I'm on these other places. But that's all part of digital plumbing and pixels and tracking. Did you know that, well, like the standard rule in marketing has been, it takes 7 touches to create a customer, right?
Absolutely.
Do you know what the number is now?
What, like 30?
70.
70. Wow. Just
And
because the noise is so prominent out there in different platforms?
The noise is prominent and people expect more information. So Google created this thing called ZMOT. You probably have seen it. They turn it into a book as well, Zero Moment of Truth, which is that people are Googling anything. They're finding out from what their friends are doing. And just takes, so especially if you're selling something that costs more than $1,000, like services, they're not going to see like one Facebook ad and become a client on the spot.
No.
They want to hear from customers. They want to see your expertise. It just takes more convincing because there's more promising going on. And I'll give you an example. So it's with anything. It's with like what you're going to have for dinner tonight. So have you decided what you're going to eat for dinner tonight?
No,
you and your wife? No? Okay. What percent of the time, 2 hours prior to dinner, do you think people have already decided where they're going to eat or what they're going to eat?
I would say 3%.
Oh, it's higher than that. It's 25%. But
really, within 2 hours, 2 hours before?
But 3/4 of people have not decided within 2 hours of dinner what they're going to eat.
Okay.
So if that's the case, what happens in that final 2 hours? Because everyone's going to eat unless they're fasting or something. But how do they decide?
Yeah.
They talk to their friends. They're driving down the road. They're taking the light rail and they see this one place and they want to stop there. Their wife says, hey, honey, can you pick up some stuff from Costco? There's all these touches that occur and people are making a decision. And you don't realize how many decisions are made spontaneously, but just because you decide to stop by Chick-fil-A, because you're just driving by and you see like, oh, there's Chick-fil-A. I want to stop in there. It wasn't because that's the first time you've ever had Chick-fil-A. It's because you already know about Chick-fil-A, and the retargeting, like you're talking about remarketing, is you as an existing customer have already had enough touches that the fact that they see you or they see a Facebook ad or a TikTok of someone eating Chick-fil-A or something like it's that extra final reminder that triggers that decision. But each of these things is contributing. So one of the large electronics companies that I think was at the workshop when you went there, we did the same research. How many touches did it take? They're selling like, DVDs and things like that, or, different, I won't reveal the name, but, they're a major electronics player. People are buying their equipment and it takes 60 to 70 touches. And TikTok released some research recently that also said it's 70 plus.
Wow.
And the higher the price, the more touches.
That can be really expensive if you're having 70 touches and you don't remarket effectively. Like even Carl's Jr., for example, I've seen TV ads on Hulu, for example, and right after pulling out my phone, I'm getting those same ads within Facebook and different things. And they have an engine in there that says, if we're spending this money on TV, sending this to them, those touches that we can have, because everybody watches TV with their phone in their left hand and scrolling through when there's commercials and things like that. But they know they need to maximize that dollar. and they need to get to those 70 impressions. And you're not just going to do it on TV. You're not just going to do it on Facebook or YouTube. You need all of them.
So you said 80% of your marketing should occur within a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if anything, that number has maybe gone up, because if it takes 70 touches to convert somebody, you're a real estate agent, it takes 70 touches because people aren't ready to buy a house or sell a house right now, but they need to hear about you and get into your mind. Then everything is remarketing. So it's not just dollar a day, it's email, it's text messaging, it's people reading your Google reviews, like all of those things add up to touches. If you are Carl's Jr. and you play that same commercial 70 times, during that favorite Netflix show, you see that same commercial over and over again, like, all right, these guys are wasting impressions. Maybe, maybe not. But that's not the smartest way to get the 70 touches in. Just because you have 70 touches doesn't mean you automatically generate a customer. Yeah,
absolutely. And I've seen times when you think about that 70 touches and doing it within certain funnels. So for example, I had a client that did in-person courses like throughout the nation. So all 50 states, they had this. And it's really important when we look at like Google search, for example, we search for this keyword and how many people enroll in a class when they search for this. And we found keywords that maybe didn't make business sense or dollar sense to spend on. But with remarketing to Facebook, we've converted a huge number of those. And sometimes when you look at Google and you say, we're spending $1,000 and only earning $1,500 and it's not making the ROI that we want, we found even turning that off turns off the Facebook amplification that we have. And so we're looking at that and saying, we have to turn that on because that puts them in a bucket that we can spend within Facebook. And so with that remarketing, you can't just measure the success that one simple ad group or campaign is doing. You have to look at that across that funnel. And we found that like that was very enlightening for us we had to market like different in-person courses they had about 400,000 students across the nation. And so
it's not dog training, is it?
No, it's not dog training. So my wife does dog training. We have an online course, but it was actually a firearm safety courses. And they taught them at like Shills, Cabela's, Bass Pro, and all of them. Very interesting. Some of the things that we played with remarketing, like they had an app that was like 50 state guide to firearm laws. And I think they were charging like $2 for the app or something. And I convinced them and said, why don't we give this app away for free? And why don't we put metrics on here? The people that are tapping on Utah to say, what are the firearm laws in Utah? Why not say, here's a firearm safety class to take and to use that for your higher ticket products. And so we developed that and we did that, but we also were able to measure that traffic and where they were and what they were learning for our Facebook ads. And our Facebook ads, like, so we were looking at and saying, okay, what are you earning on this app with $2 per user, like, small number. And after repurposing that with free content and leveraging that to sell more in-person courses, it was huge. It was awesome.
That's incredible. Wow. And when people are going to Google, they're getting smarter about using the search engine. Same with ChatGPT. They're asking, how do I do this? And how do I do that? So if you're making it easy and open for people to learn how to do that, which is where people go to Google, the funny thing is that then you can sell through Facebook, because it used to be the other way around. It used to be people will go to Facebook to learn how to do something. And then when it's time to buy, they would go to Google. And now it's mixed.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are learning how to do stuff on TikTok and they're buying stuff. I have stuff in the studio that I bought because I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. I think business owners, one thing that they're afraid of one thing is a lot of people are afraid to make content because they don't want to be on video, right? And so you say, if you can give us the content for TikTok and Facebook and all these things that are video first that can deliver the engagement, and say, well, why don't you just make an image ad that says click here for this or whatever? That's not how the engagement works. That's not how the algorithm works. And one thing that for this firearm safety company, I talked them into actually giving away the course for free within social media. Like, we recorded the 3-hour course and I took those snippets and I just said, let's give them what it's like to be in the class and the energy and the emotion and the information and all of that. And so we did that, and they went from, lackluster thousands of views a month to tens of millions of views a month. And the engagement skyrocketed. And I think we grew them to be 8 times the size that they were when we started. It was massive, and then COVID happened, and that was a huge, in-person classes just went from here to zero, rock bottom.
Yeah.
And we had to re-strategize, and we started offering online courses, like just moving fast on that. We learned a ton in how to market and remarket for the online classes. And now we're in the post-COVID world. And that's been a huge benefit, where I think people and businesses might get complacent into here's what's already working for us. Like, why do online courses, or why do this? And through necessity and through that hurt or that fear, you have to try new things. And overall, that's been a huge benefit.
Smart pivot. And you could take that training that you have, you record a series of videos, and you could run it through, you transcribe it through Descript and ChatGPT. Now you got a book. I believe everyone should have a book. If they have any kind of knowledge as a services business, they should record a bunch of 1-minute videos based on PAA. People also ask, so Google tells you the questions. Sit down for a day, record the answers to all those videos, use Descript to get the transcription, and then use ChatGPT to organize it in the chapters, write it more nicely, give it a great title, put it on Amazon, and run $1 a day against it, so you can be a bestseller in that category.
Oh, that's awesome.
$1 a day on Amazon is my favorite thing right now.
Really? I see. I've never touched Amazon yet as far as sales and remarketing. So that's something that we need to try out.
It builds trust and authority. So it's not that we're making money on the book. I mean, this book, I think we've sold 14,000 copies of, because it's Perry Marshall and I. But like you said, when you put your knowledge out there, you might be losing money initially because it's lead generation, but then they buy the course, they come to your program, they hire you.
Trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whoever has an expertise in something, if you just give away your expertise, people will either say, okay, great, I'm going to try to do it myself, or dang, that Caleb Kingston guy, I need to hire him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny, because I actually have a lot of online courses for creative design and app design. So I have a website, App Design Tips, but that's one thing that I always had this itch to start a YouTube channel and to teach what I know. And I had a lot of people that were in the older generations that didn't understand the social media and getting your knowledge out there, that were really afraid of what I was talking about. Like, let's give all this information for free. And they said, well, who's going to hire you after you do that?
Yeah.
And I was telling them, there's going to be, out of the 1,000 people that I share out there, maybe one of them will say, let's try this. And the rest of them were going to say, I'm not comfortable with this, let's hire. And through that, as we did that, so our courses, it's gotten up to $7,000 a month in sales. It's gotten me huge strategic partnerships with Adobe. So now I'm an enterprise instructor for Adobe for all of their creative applications. I think I've taught over 300 companies with them, like Fortune 500 companies. And one thing that's, that opportunity that I didn't understand the gates that would open up for me doing that. I just had that itch to want to teach. But even through that, it's helped me become more knowledgeable, because I get to interview these 300 Fortune 500 companies that all have diverse teams and design flows, that I get to ask them, what are your pain points and how do you work? And so I feel like I have one of the most well-rounded knowledge of design workflows and stacks and how teams work, even though I've never worked at an agency or a company that had 200 designers. I understand that and get to work and interview all of them. So that's been very rewarding for me.
Incredible. And even better than being in-house at just one company, you see how it works across many companies, which is more valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get to see what's common across the industry, where you say, this is something that is a huge pain point for the 80% of you, and something that you can learn to teach and solve very quickly. And just simple things that help their eyes light up to say, man, I didn't understand how easy those things were. But, the pain points that people haven't spent the time to really try to solve. But, you as an industry leader can go in there and just give them the answer within seconds.
Yeah. And the more people you talk to, the stronger your own training becomes, because you keep enhancing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So maybe I want to ask, I've been noticing a lot of social media posts that you've been posting about social media agencies, and I'm really curious on your thoughts if you can expand on one thing with social media agencies or SEO agencies is how do you give someone the trust? So for SEO, for example, so one thing that we tell our clients is we say we have to have a 12-month contract. If we have a month-to-month contract, you might fire us within 3 months because Google sometimes takes 6 to 8 weeks to index what we do. And it might take 6 months to pick up depending on competitor levels. And so it is really hard to have transparency into what we're doing, not because we're not willing to share it, but some of it's kind of a high level to say, we're going to optimize your website on page optimization with your headers and your titles and this, then we're going to get your backlinks and then we're going to do this. And you know, our clients hire us because they don't understand what any of this philosophy is of how to get on the top of Google. But you're right. There are a lot of them that could easily sign up that client with a sales agent, say, let's get you signed up and not do anything for 3 months. And there's no way to really have that transparency. So what are your thoughts on that? And where are you going with the posts that you've been posting on social media?
Well, you said there's no way to have that transparency. I can have that transparency in 2 minutes.
How's that?
I can easily audit them. I could even do it right now.
Well, you can.
I've done.
But what about the clients who don't understand how to use Screaming Frog or to, you know,
the tools?
Yeah. So
they don't know. You and I are mechanics. So no mechanic can trick me because I'm just going to look under the hood and say, yeah, this is what your salesperson said, but clearly you didn't fix the transmission or you promised a new engine. It's still the same engine in there. Like you just put a different paint color on it. Like here, I would ask for people who don't understand SEO and they think it's mysterious and all that. Let me ask you this question. So Caleb, if I wanted to lose weight and I hired you as a coach, could I just pay you $1,000 a month and then you just lose weight for me?
Nope.
Why not? I mean, you're one of the best weight loss coaches and personal trainers and all that. I mean, let's say you're super fit and you have a 6-pack. Why can't I just pay you $1,000 a month?
Because it does. I can give you all the guidance you want, but you have to be the one to do it to lose weight.
No, but you do weight loss. So I'm just going to pay you $1,000 a month to do my weight loss for me.
Yeah. If I can,
I mean, you're an expert in weight loss.
If I can force you to do that, then absolutely.
I mean, the body is so complex, and the cells and the DNA and the metabolism, and there's all these tools to measure your metabolism that you just don't understand. So I'm just going to pay you the $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Well, I thought you were good.
But can you not do that with SEO though? That's a little bit different because you can affect some of those things directly.
You can, but what is the heart of SEO? I'm an old-time search engine engineer, right? 25 years ago, I built the internal analytics at Yahoo, and my job was to protect the search results from people trying to trick us. So I'm not an SEO. I'm an engineer who is kind of have to fight the people trying to trick us. So what is a search engine looking for? Well, there's many things they're looking for, but what are the top 3 or things they're looking for as signals to say Caleb Kingston's brain spin site does deserve to rank on this term, or your wife's dog training business, when people type in these keywords, it deserves to rank?
User intent. I mean, they're trying to match the user intent, but as far as the signals that they're looking for, I think some of the biggest ones is engagement. If they trust you and rank you and people are clicking on there and bouncing right back off, that's a signal that tells Google, I can't share this because obviously the users are bouncing off and trying to find more information, so they derank. Another thing is reputation, and it is backlinks, even though there's black hat and white hat and all that, but the backlinks is the authoritative strategic partnerships, like you as a marketer linking to me as a marketer, and that trust that you have already built through there. Google sees that as a huge weight. But they're looking at user behavior, and then they're looking at their reputation that you build around the websites that you have around there. But the biggest thing with any SEO is user intent. What does the user want to know? What do they want to buy? And they're trying to figure out all these signals and ranking based on just what does the user want us to show?
So you said User experience, which has really come up in the last year, which I'll give you a couple nuggets that I think are mind blowing. Reputation, which ties to links because people are voting for you. Every review, every endorsement, every guest post, every time you speak, every book, all those are signals that can carry some amount of juice. Let me ask you, so you mentioned like white hat and black hat. Do you think us as a search engine can tell when people are trying to trick us by buying a bunch of garbagey links? Or if it's legitimately a real article on a real site?
Absolutely. So let me give you an example. If you go on a Fiverr and you get like 500 backlinks, for example.
Don't do that. Yeah.
So yeah, that could be
it does work sometimes. In low competition markets, it does work, but don't do it.
But the biggest thing is, there are websites out there that sell backlinks, but they don't sell backlinks. They sell the outreach, and there's things that you can do to outreach, but you have to look at the website and say, is this, and some of it takes marketing common sense to say, is this a website where the primary goal is to give their visitors a certain topic of information? And sometimes when you buy these backlinks on Fiverr, they're the paid backlink networks. You look at that and the topics are so diverse and the content is like not anything of value. And you can see it within the first 3 articles. And you say, if I add my article on here, Google, they already have a history with Google, and Google's looking at them as a shady website because they're already measuring
you can already see it,
the bounce rates and everything else that's going there. So even if they fool you for a little bit and have a domain rating of 73 or whatever, you do that, and Google can start to see a pattern of these backlinks flooding in through these things and not a focused content, and it will de-rank you over time. So even as you, and we've made that mistake early on too, to say, we're trying to learn, we're practitioners, and there's an easy method. Like sometimes you can pay $500 for a backlink for someone to outreach, and it's because it might take 10 or 15 hours to really find one that's valuable, that you can pitch that content that they will, instead of saying, I'll give you $100 and you just list it here, whatever it's about, you can do that. And so as far as black hat and white hat, again, you have to go back to, do the users want to be on this site? Do they want to know what you're writing about? And is the backlink relevant to the story that they want, to where they would continue and read further? And if it's not, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Amen. So there's one thread in common with all the things that you said. So the first thing you said on user experience, if you are an expert in whatever, like Sony lenses,
Zeiss lenses,
then I could know everything about SEO and be one of the best SEO people. But if I don't know anything about these kinds of lenses, I'm not going to provide the best experience for people who are coming in and trying to understand what's the difference between this 85 millimeter lens and the current wide angle lens that you're looking at me through. It requires the actual expertise, because that's what keeps people there. And if, like you said, things like video keep people on the site, then me knowing about SEO, but I don't know anything about lenses, that's not going to work. And if I want quality links from other people that are professional videographers, from the lens manufacturers, from the conferences, I know SEO, but I don't know anyone in that industry, then there's no way they're going to let me post a guest blog. They're not going to link to me because I'm not authoritative. I don't have the network. So that also goes back to having the expertise. And if we're based on intent, if I don't know anything about the difference between a fixed lens like this versus one where I can adjust, or with different levels of bokeh, or this will stop all the way down to 1.2 to let a bunch of light in. If I don't understand those concepts, I can't get to the user intent to understand. So when a videographer or a consumer is coming in and deciding what are the 3 lenses I need to purchase for my full frame Sony A7, I can answer that question because I've bought tons and tons of lenses. I've done the research. I know how to break that user intent into different parts. For example, if you're a pro videographer, you put way more into the lenses than the camera body. When people ask the question of how much is that camera? Well, it depends on what lens it has on it. Because the lens is way more important than the body. But if you didn't know that, how would you distinguish user intent? So in those 3 cases I mentioned, the most important part is actually having subject matter expertise. So just because someone understands SEO, yes, they can do the on-page titles and indexing, like whatever. how fast the site's loading. But the true heart of SEO is you have to have the subject matter expertise in that area. So SEO has moved into industry level expertise.
Yeah.
So if
and
you want to help, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And one thing that's really scary about that now is being able to leverage ChatGPT. For example, you can say, well, now I don't need the industry knowledge because I can jump into ChatGPT and I can say, here's my competitors and do this. But one thing that we've done, so as we started with ChatGPT, I had a lot of my employees start to work with that to create things like, oh, this is written really well. And I had to sit down with them in the first articles and I said, but what is this? Like, this is ChatGPT writing things, but it's not a subject matter expert still. And there's things that I said, I know that this is inaccurate and it's actually telling a lie, but you
because ChatGPT is pulling from the internet. ChatGPT doesn't know who's actually an expert. So it's just generate. If 90% of the stuff out there is garbage, it's going to pull that garbage in.
Absolutely. And so that was one thing I said, you have to override what it, so we always use that as a starting point, but we have to have the subject matter expert. We have to know what it's saying is true or not true. And that's one thing that's, so when you have clients that are, we have clients that are limo rental companies and we have roofing companies, and there's some things like that you can actually create some good knowledge, and you can do enough research to write and know a little bit about that and figure out where the content gaps are for sure. But then there are things like camera store, camera equipment, and that, what does an aperture mean and what is the wide angle and all those. That is a lot more technical. And if you write something where it looks like it's an authoritative source and you're making mistakes like that, you could really hurt that brand and that company by doing that. And that's really important.
And even if it was correct, even if it truly was said by the experts or it had expertise in it, using ChatGPT to generate your content will eventually get you busted. You know why?
Because you're saying what everybody else is already saying.
Yeah. And so Google changed their quality rater guidelines from EAT to EEAT, which used to be expertise, authority, trust, and they added the extra E, which is experience, right? Experience, expertise, authority, trust. So if you use ChatGPT to auto-generate all this stuff, which can look great, and you tune it and whatever, but it doesn't have your experience in there, talking about specifics and putting in pictures and videos and images and people that you've worked with and examples of you doing something and behind the scenes, then you're going to be nailed, because anyone out there can basically use ChatGPT to generate pages and pages on all kinds of stuff. They can go to Google and look at the PAA and generate articles against those. They can go by, so anything that, here's the main rule in SEO from my standpoint as a search engine, anything that can be done by somebody else very easily carries zero authority, zero trust.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what can I do to show that I really, you're guilty with search? You're guilty until proven innocent. I'm judging you as guilty. So what am I looking for? Back to the original question. What am I looking for from you that would show me that you are legitimate? Well, obviously a link from a high authority site, speaking at Adobe. Well, is Adobe going to allow anybody to come speak at their conference?
No.
You probably have to be legit in some way. Being on TV, which can, that's a really hard one to get. But if you're on CNN or, you're actually on NPR, not buying press releases to put there. I mean, you actually are on video in the studio, right? Or having a podcast where you're interviewing other people that are experts in that particular industry, which builds industry authority. Guest blog posts. Those are you can use ChatGPT to help you. So I say, use ChatGPT to advise, not to create. Use it to tune your grammar. Use it to say, hey, I'm writing this article about, 5 mistakes people make with golden retrievers who are peeing on the floor. I don't know, something like that. And here's my article. Look at it and critique it. What do you think I'm missing? What else do I need to say? How do I make it better? Use ChatGPT as the advisor. Please write an article with 5 bullet points about this, trying to rank on this keyword for golden retriever training, Utah. Yeah. Don't have it create, have it advise you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
have it
one
process
thing
your content
that I think is one of the best strategic moves for ChatGPT is I always say, write this article outline for me where I can create the content. And so, for example, to that, what I usually say is I want to, so one thing that's really nice is now that ChatGPT has access to real-time internet, I say, here are the 3 best articles in this resource that I want to write about.
Yeah.
I want to be the best and group the best of what all of three of these have. And then I go through the people also ask, and I copy and paste all of that on Google and say, I want to relevantly and organically answer all of these people also ask questions within here, not listicle, but something that's more organic that they want to read. And I'll do that. But the end secret sauce to that is you have to be the authoritative figure. You have to know and use that as a template. So I always say, write me an outline based on that, and I'll go in, and you have to write it with your personality, your voice, and get to the heart of it. And that, I think, leveraging like that, ChatGPT like that, can be really huge in that content. But one question I have for you now, so when you are an SEO agency and you're not the industry knowledge source, and you have clients that don't want to be on video, they're not comfortable with that, they want an easy solution to grow their content, what do you do? What strategies do you do for your clients to say, okay, we're going out of the gate with this, we need the content? How do you get that content from them?
We're doing it right now. They don't want to make video because it is daunting to Gary Vaynerchuk style point the phone at your face and go live and whatnot. So you do it. All clients have passion for the thing that they're an expert in. So right now we're doing something for the National Funeral Directors Association. It's a huge conference. I'm the closing keynote, which is crazy. In 1 month, I'm speaking at the convention center. And these, to stereotype a little bit, these are older people that generally are afraid of technology and AI. And my closing keynote is about AI. And we've taken a batch, just randomly selected, small funeral homes, some of the big ones that have many locations. And we're doing exactly what you learned in our 3-day workshop. We're making videos, we're repurposing them, we're setting up remarketing, digital plumbing to be able to follow people around and track results. And we're doing all this kind of stuff. But instead of us being in person at GoDaddy's headquarters for 3 days, we're sending out young adults to go out there and just document and ask questions and walk and talk with the funeral director as if they were potential clients. If God forbid you pretend like your mother died and say, what do I need to know about a green funeral? And what are the burial laws in this state? And how much does a funeral cost? And can I get it covered by insurance? And all these kinds of questions, right? Wearing the shoes of a potential client. And because these business owners, they know how to, they've done it for years and years. They've answered those questions. They've talked to customers.
They know.
They've just not recorded, as you and I know, they've just not recorded the thing because they're afraid. They think, I got to hire a professional videographer who makes movies with the fancy camera and all that. No, an iPhone. This iPhone, these kids, I taught a bunch of kids yesterday at freaking Sky Zone, the trampoline park, and I was teaching them how to do this kind of stuff, and now equipping them to go out and gather these moments, process these videos using the different AI tools. And there's more and more AI tools every single day that make it easier and easier, turning them into blog posts, social snippets, making sure that our tracking is in place. If these kids don't understand Google Tag Manager, which I know is confusing or whatnot, then we have a whole team to help them do that. And so that gets around the whole lie or myth that the business owner, because I get it, the agencies say, oh, well, the business owner doesn't make the videos and they're, we do our part, but the hold up on them because they didn't make the video or write the article or whatever. Yes, but can you say, hey, I'd love to hop on a Zoom call, pick a time in my Calendly, and for 30 minutes, I'm just going to interview you. Just ask you a bunch of questions. Can you do that? And they say yes.
Yeah, and that is the best way, because with a lot of our clients, you have the opportunity, you work with a lot of bigger conferences and things that, that's really nice to be able to have that content and build that out and to do that. But a lot of the smaller companies, what's funny is you ask them about their industry and say, sell me this product, and they can do that. Like, hands down, they've been doing this for 40 years. And then you put a camera in front of them and say the same thing. And they're like, yeah, here at this limo company, we do, and it's just not organic for them. It's tough. And so one thing that I do is I always, even on the kickoff call, I say, if it's a Zoom or whatever, I say, do you mind if I record this just for my notes? And they say, oh yeah. And it kind of just takes the fear out of what am I going to say? And and we do that. We record those things. And then we say, hey, can we use this for social media? And after that, after they've already done that and they don't have the fear there, they're a lot more organic, they're a lot more animated, and we can use that and we can give it to our employees to say, let's write articles about this. And that's one thing that's really helpful, because you have to know what are 80% of the questions that you get asked every single day. And you need to have a frequently asked questions on there and just answer those, and to be able to say, so one thing that's we've been doing is we actually started a new company, Airgun Titans. We do an e-commerce online airgun shooting. It's really awesome. And this puts us back into like we're the clients and we're the SEO agency trying to figure out all around what we're trying to do. And with Airgun Titans, it's something that it helps us kind of get back into the seat of what do we need to learn to build this out, where we are the authoritative figures and the industry knowledge. And we started this with a friend of mine, Connor Jenkins, and he is someone that if he was right in front of you, he can sell you like whatever your budget is, whatever your needs are. He's like, this is what you want. You need a bipod, you need a scope, you need the air, you need a tank, you need a compressor. And so even with that, I told him, everybody's always asking, what's the best gun? And that answer, what's the best air gun? And the answer is different depending on who you are, what your skill set is. But I said, we need to answer that in an article or in a video. And it's something that is really hard if it's the very first time in a video. But even with an article, I said, if somebody's saying, what gun do I get? Instead of you having to give that hour pitch, you say, read this article and then let's have a call, or then come in and do that. And then they're a lot more informed. But you need to have something that says the best air gun for beginners under this budget. And then if you have all the money in the world, what is it? And you have to break it down into categories. But it really takes magic to convert that. And it seems like magic, but to convert that to, he's standing right in front of you and he can sell you all the time, but it's difficult for them to write that article. And so you need that.
They don't write the article. You speak the article, you interview them on video, and that one video can be made into like Mexican food, right?
Absolutely. And that's
same ingredients.
That's the magic of how you do it.
And that's the content factory, that whole process. Absolutely. You make one long video and then, the Mexican food analogy, right? Beans, cheese, rice, meat, and it can be turned into a taco, a tostada, an enchilada, a chalupa, a burrito. The same ingredients, the same, that one video where you ask Connor all those questions. Oh, what's the best air gun for this kind of budget, for kids, for competition people, for unlimited money? If, whatever, all the different questions that he's already answered before, you will record it one time. Then that gets turned into every other asset. Then you don't have to worry about that. That also turns into YouTube videos and articles and your book and all that. You don't have to worry about being on Threads or whatever kind of social network. They're all the same thing.
And that's the most important thing SEO agencies need to understand from the start is sometimes they're like, well, I'll just write the content and I'll just do that. But the thing is, you're going to spend 10 times as much time getting very low impact because you're not the industry knowledge. And sometimes just that recipe that you're talking about, all you have to do is just interview them and do your homework first. So get with the keyword research and the people also ask and those things to understand what they are. And they're going to resonate and who your client is, they're going to say, oh yeah, I get asked that all the time. If they're asking that on Google, they're asking me that. Yeah. And they'll know that. And if you spend that first, 1, 2, or 3 hours doing that, it'll help you huge coming out of the gate, and it'll earn their trust because you'll get the traffic faster, you'll get the sales faster, and it'll help you retain them longer as a client. Yeah.
And the agency will also understand the underlying brand better too. Because if the agency doesn't understand, their people can't work on the content. They're going to butcher that content. You could have the best VAs on the planet, but if they don't understand what are the different parts of an air gun, it doesn't matter now. You know what else is really helpful that I found, especially for clients that are in a call-based business where they have to call for service or different things. So we use an app called CallRail that records all the calls, and this call is being recorded. So one thing that's really helpful too is there's different ways of tracking e-commerce. You can track the dollar spent for marketing and the dollar earned. That's easy. Yeah. But now you have service companies where you might not be able to connect the exact dollar. But we do call tracking where we say these calls came from Google, this came from the website, this came from whatever. But even recording the conversations there and learning from that, there's 30-minute conversations that's a blog article, and it's just about
they ask about, like, I don't understand this. Can you help me? Like,
Oh, pure
what do I need
gold.
to pay for? What do I need to do this? And so we've even used that. What are the questions they're answering? And it gets right into the heart of what this service provider is selling and what they're doing and what their knowledge is. But we found that to be very huge for content to be able to do that.
Yeah. And even things like headlines, we have a Portland pest control company. And if you record these calls or look at user feedback, one of them might be, there's pigeons that are in my trash. I don't know, and you like whatever they're actually saying to exclaim the pain is such a unique thing that you'd never come up with that as a copywriter.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Mom, there's a raccoon in the backyard. Like, oh, that's a great headline for an email. I wouldn't have thought to open that. And, here's did you know that raccoons are covered by your insurance policy because they have an opposable thumb versus like opossums are not? Like, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Really?
Possums, you don't make money on possums. You do make money on raccoons if you're a pest control company. Like, oh, okay. Interesting. But you learn that by understanding the customer, by recording the stuff through CallRail, by tracking which of those things turn into jobs. Absolutely. And running CallRail through Descript or whatever tools to get the transcription so you can pull the words. And then, so you get the transcription, then you run all those through ChatGPT or some other tool and say, what do you think are the 3 or 4 best? You can ask it to analyze it for you.
Absolutely. And back to the point about transparency and how you offer transparency. So that was something that early on in our marketing, we were having a hard time with some of the clients that we actually, like, 3 times their number of calls that they were getting and 3 times their traffic. And we were doing awesome. But what happened every single month is we sent an email that said, your marketing campaign is doing great. Here's a Calendly link. If you want to schedule a time, we can go through it. And we do that. And what we find predominantly with our clients is like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. Can we get on a call and discuss what we're doing? Well, I don't have time for that. And what happened, because we didn't have, and talking about search engine optimization, there has to be client awareness optimization. Like, how do you get your client aware if they don't want to get on a phone call? And how do you get things, how do you front load your value to them and the transparency so they can build that trust? What happened was that year ended, but we tripled their traffic, and then they fired us. And I knew, and I told the sales representative and the account manager, I said, they're going to fire us because they didn't get on a call with us and they don't know what we're doing. And they're breaking records every single month in their growth. And they still don't trust us because we haven't given that transparency. And they're like, well, what do we do? They wouldn't get on a phone call with us. And when I call them and ask, they're like, oh, I'm busy and I don't know. And then they're like, well, what's going on with this? And you try to explain it and you're always on the defensive. Well, for the past 6 months, we've been doing this and this and this. One thing that we did that solved that was we front load and say, hey, here's your monthly management report. And very first we say, so I'm reading one of these right now that I got. There's great improvements across multiple keywords and search results. We acquired 4 30 domain rating and 250 domain rating placements targeting this keyword. 400 of your keywords improved this month. And then we give them a list that shows the exact placement on there. And then we do a screenshot because maybe they don't want to click onto the link that we wrote for the guest articles. So we do a screenshot saying, here's highlighting where you're featured. And we do that. And then we say, would you like to jump on a call to discuss future strategy? If not, here's what we're going to focus on. And just by adding that email and that PDF every single month, our retention has been huge, where we've had some clients for 6 years, 7 years. But it's, I don't have time, but this is right here in front of me. So they'll read it like, oh, that's kind of cool. And you have to be able to do that to say, our clients are busy. They don't understand what SEOs are doing. And it's kind of like, if I get on a phone call, they're going to talk about a lot of stuff that I don't quite understand. But front loading a lot of that information has helped us tremendously.
Yeah. And front load by setting the expectation before they become a client to say, yes, we're going to record some videos. We need this. And then the transparency. I love how you're showing exactly where the links are coming from and what you're doing, which most SEO companies don't do because they're not doing anything, or they're garbagey links, which are embarrassing. But then saying, hey, if we can just, if we can get together and record a few more of these questions, this is how much increase we could get by reaching out. We could create more content. Like, if the results are good, would you like more? Okay, well, we need to create more content.
Absolutely.
And you only need to do it once a quarter, because that's plenty enough for us to front load, like you said. Yeah.
And there's a huge correlation in success for our clients, for the ones that are actually willing to spend that 1 hour every 2 months or whatever, to spend that time with us to say, here's what's working, here's what's not. The correlation of growth between those clients and the ones that don't is massive. So if you're going to be paying for SEO, spend that hour a month to give those SEOs what they need. And if you don't do that, there are other competitors out there that are doing that. They're going to outrank you no matter how much time your SEO spends.
That's right. Well, Caleb, it's been fantastic spending time with you. I'm so glad
it's been a pleasure.
Came on the Coach U show. I learned so much. I can't wait to chop it up and share your knowledge and have ChatGPT tune it up, and our team of VAs. Any final words you'd like to share? Questions maybe you wish that you were asked?
I would just say, if you're getting into SEO and really trying to rank for a certain business or things, the biggest thing that you can do as far as homework is just Google your competitors and find out where they are and what they're doing. It's the easiest thing to reverse engineer and to say, here's what I want to be, here's my competitors, and say, well, okay, there's Google My Business and they're getting this many reviews and there's this article and there's these videos, and you can use that as a quick checklist. But it's easy to find out what are others doing that work and try that out and just have that confidence to move forward.
Yeah. And then hit up any of us who are legitimate people in the space for a quick audit. Takes 2 minutes to do an audit. If you don't want to step on the scale to find it, you may or may not like the results. It might be good, but it's always better to know.
Yeah, and it really is 2 minutes to very quickly jump in there. Let's get on a Calendly, on a Zoom session, and very quickly discover where you're at.
Awesome. Well, Caleb Kingston, CEO of BrainSpin, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Dennis. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.